Hey class, welcome to week 3. So this week we're going to have a little bit of a mix between the philosophical and the operational and concrete. So this discussion can be fun. It'll be a little bit of the best of both worlds. We're going to go over kind of the building blocks of a research study here. It's not important for you to know these because you're going to be doing a study. It's important for you to know these because they make up the foundation of studies. So when you're going through and you're reading a scientific article as a counselor, you need to be able to identify these things in order to understand what the article is actually saying in the end. So if you don't know what these things are, you're really going to struggle on understanding like the point of a scientific article. So first and foremost, you're going to learn about operationally defining a variable. And that is the second step, you'll recall, of the scientific method. It's important because it allows you to compare things across different articles. So when you're doing a lot of reading about depressed patients, it's important that you know what the author is saying whenever he says depressed. And is that the same as what you're saying when you're thinking depressed? So that's what operational definition gives us. It gives us kind of a generalization because lots and lots of people are going to be reading these from lots and lots of different backgrounds. So it's very specific, very detail oriented. You're also going to learn about the research and null hypotheses. This is kind of where it gets a little more philosophical. I don't want you to get too deep into the philosophical weeds this week. This is actually a pretty complicated concept as to why we use a null hypothesis instead of just using the alternative hypothesis all the time. We will be going over that later on in the course. It's a little advanced for where you guys are right now. So mostly I just want to make sure you know the difference between the two and what their roles are in the studies. If you would like to talk about the philosophical implications of this, I'm more than happy to kind of have a sneak peek by having a discussion on the questions for the instructor board or an email or whatever you want, but really just don't worry too much about getting into the advanced philosophical background on this because we will be going over it later. So it's okay if you don't understand why we do a null hypothesis. You will understand it, and it's more important that right now you just know what it is. And then you're also going to be learning about independent and dependent variables. Again, don't worry too much about the philosophy of why they're called independent and dependent. I find that a lot of times is what will throw people off, trying to understand, well, why is it called an independent variable? I am more than happy to explain that for you guys, again, in a discussion for questions for the instructor. But really this week I want to just make sure that you guys know the difference between the two, how they're used in a study, because that's going to be very important to you. Much more important than why they're called what they're called. I want you to be able to identify them when you're reading a study and make sure that you're picking a study when you're reading as a counselor that actually answers the research question you need to answer. Your discussion this week is going to be very similar to last week's discussion. You're going to use your Hauser text. There are 6 other criteria for assessing a hypothesis. So you're not going to be assessing the entire article like you did last week. You're going to evaluate the hypothesis of an article, and I will give that to you. It is in the research files. So I want you to go through, pick one of the criteria again. Again, try not to double up too much. I know you're going to have to a little bit. And I want you to evaluate the hypothesis of this article according to Hauser's kind of guidelines. Again, I know there's a little bit of doubling here, but please make sure that your discussion posts are providing some unique information. It makes the responses way easier for your classmates, and part of the rubric for grading does require you to provide new information. You have to present something that hasn't been presented yet, and if you're just copying and pasting, in other words, what somebody else said already, you're really not providing with a lot of new information. So just be really careful. Just kind of keep a wary eye out on what posts have already been posted so that you don't accidentally do that. This week, very important, you also have your paper due. I want you guys to kind of do a little mini lit search. At this point, you've read several articles. You know what the lit review portion looks like. It's usually either called a lit review or an introduction. And so the purpose of a lit review is to kind of initially answer a research question. Obviously, you're not doing an experiment, but you're kind of using the experiments people have already done to answer a question that you are interested in. You, as a counselor, will be doing this much more often, if not 100% more often, than you will be doing the experiments. I doubt many of you will be doing the experiments, but you will always be wondering something. You know, is this new method more effective than the one I'm using? I've heard about this drug. Is it effective for cravings? That you will be doing all the time. So this is kind of your first step into that. Consider this your introduction. You're going to select a topic, pick something you're interested in, and pick something related to substance abuse. In the first week in the class discussions, you guys talked about something that you're just interested in. You kind of introduced yourselves in something that you liked. Feel free to use something in that area. I want you guys to enjoy this. I want you to get something out of it. So you're going to pick a question in the topic area, and I want you to use 3 articles. I want you to evaluate the articles on how good of quality that they are based on the things that you've learned in the last couple of weeks. And I want you to kind of come up with a little conclusion at the end of each of the articles that relates back to your research question. So if your topic is what video games are most popular with men 25 to 35, you're going to go through, you're going to read through articles on video games, you're going to check for the population. You're also going to just check to make sure that they were done well, check the methods, check the results, and in the end, just kind of come up with, oh, okay, according to this article, The Legends of Zelda is the most popular game. According to this article, Halo is the most popular game. And according to this article, Assassin's Creed is the most popular game. So just kind of come up with these little mini conclusions. They might be the same as the other ones. That would be great. If you kind of have similar conclusions across all 3, then you've got a really good answer to your question. So this is just kind of for you guys. Learn something. This is a great way for you to kind of objectively ask and answer a question using the scientific literature. If you have any questions at all, please, please, please feel free to come to me and I will be happy to explain anything you need. Other than that, I hope you enjoy your week. I hope you enjoy your papers, and I will see you next week.